Well, this is a wonderful crowd. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Welcome to the 2018 Mayoral Forum hosted by the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce and the United Newspaper Group, or Stoughton Courier Hub.
Unified.
Pardon me?
Unified.
I'm sorry. Yes, Unified. You're right. Tonight's forum will be covered in the Stoughton Courier Hub and is being televised live on WSTO now, and it will run over the next few weeks leading up to the election. I am Laura Trotter, Director of the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce. This evening, I will introduce the candidates for the four open city council seats, and each candidate will be given 3 minutes to address the audience. A little housekeeping. Over here we have a cooler full of water if anyone would like to help themselves, cookies, chocolates, and the bathrooms are in this hallway here. After we hear from the alder candidates, we will begin the mayoral forum. So we're going to go through the aldermanic candidates by district. So in District 1, we have unopposed Sid Boersma, incumbent. Welcome, Sid.
Thank you, and as a first speaker, I just want to express my gratitude for all of you being here as well. I'm extremely honored to be representing District 1 of Stoughton. Stoughton is a unique community, a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to raise kids, and a wonderful place to have so many friends. I represent the District 1 and have done so for about 5 years. I took over following the death of Mr. Kneebone, who died when he was in office, and I was appointed by the council to be the District 1 alderperson. I have a fairly long history. I've been there about 5 years, just about 5 years, and I've served on a number of committees, and I won't name them all, but some are personnel and Commission on Aging and Public Works and Library Board, and I'm missing some and apologize for that. But I've gained a lot of experience over time and a lot of really understanding about this city and how it operates and how it works. The city, it takes a lot of work to operate a city like this. Our city staff is wonderful. We have some of the best, I think, in the state. We have a wonderful way of actually getting into office, and I just wanted to address that. When we are appointed or are elected to our districts, we raise our right hand and we swear that we are going to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin. I think that's an act of genius because I think it really holds us in a high regard, and it holds us in a really a position of incredible trust that we have to adhere to. I'm just so happy to be able to do that. I'm running unopposed, and you'll see some signs out anyway, but I would like to have your vote from District 1 again. I remain open for people to contact me if there's any issues that you see that need to be addressed by our city council. Again, I think we just have a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place. I stand for growth. I would like to see a lot more growth, especially of residential homes. I am a realtor and I'm also a social worker. I have also had the privilege of learning a lot more about things by my church and by my involvement in Red Cross. I just came back from Parkland, where I helped some families in adjustment to the terrible and awful shooting in Florida. And I'm glad to be back home. I'm glad to be back with my friends. I think our country needs to heal, and we need to settle some issues. And I'm here to help, at least in a little part of having Stoughton resolve some issues. And thank you very much for your time. I'm out of time, but it's so nice to see you all here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Moving forward, candidates, Jim Ferroli will have a timer on his laptop, so that will be your indication when your time is up. And we're going to move on to District 2. I think we'll have both of you come up and then stand at the side, and we'll one at a time do your things. We're going to have in District 2 Phil Caravello and Franklin James. Both are challengers and neither of are incumbents. You'll be taking the position of, who's the current alder that you're replacing?
The current alder is
Mike Engelberger. So, excellent. So we'll welcome first Phil Caravello.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to the Chamber and the Hub for this opportunity. I'm Phil Caravello. I have been a downtown resident and business and property owner for over 23 years. I first came to Stoughton because I heard about an opportunity downtown. I heard that there was, in 1994, I heard that there was a bicycle shop for sale on Main Street. And I came down from Madison to check it out. And it was my first visit to Stoughton. And I was very impressed by what I saw. Seeing just riding around downtown on my bike, seeing the river running through town or winding through town, the really cool old buildings, the Carnegie Library, the Opera House that I learned was going through a renovation at the time. I was just amazed. And I thought, wow, Stoughton has a really cool, amazing downtown, and I would like to be part of it, and took advantage of the opportunity that I had to buy the business that was there. So after doing some research, making a business plan, I bought the building and moved into the apartment that was upstairs, and reopened Stoughton Cycle in spring of 1995. Unfortunately, in the fall, or actually on December 2nd of 1996, a fire completely destroyed that building, along with two other buildings on Main Street on the site of where Kaganza Plaza now stands. I was devastated just a year and a half after that being open. But I was also stunned and overwhelmed by the overwhelming support that came from the community of Stoughton after that fire. I was amazed. The support for the victims of that fire that came from the community, just people offering anything that they could do to help me. A group of women from the senior center making quilts for everybody that was affected by the fire. People offering places to stay, people bringing food, people bringing clothing. It was an amazing show of community support that really struck me, and I really took to heart. It was really amazing. So a few months ago, when some District 2 neighbors came to me and asked if I would run for council, I said that since Stoughton helped me, if I can help Stoughton, use my experience and skills to help Stoughton, I would be honored, and that I would do my best with open ears and an open mind to do so. Thank you very much.
And also in District 2, we have Franklin James.
Thank you, everyone, for your warm welcome. I'm just really happy, excited, and a little nervous to be here, but it feels great to be here either way, just because this community makes me feel like I'm at home. I've always felt like I'm at home here. Everyone's super nice, even from my opponent, Phil. He rebuilt one of those bikes when his shop burned down. One of those was destined for me. And sadly, it did get lost in the fire. But Phil, he pulled through, got me my bike for Christmas, and ever since then, I've just felt like I'm part of a community and the business owners who are part of it too. And I'm hoping to, ideally, get new families living in town so they can raise their kids here. Because I've been here my entire life. I've never, ever once felt like I'm not a part of the community. And that is something I want to reiterate with everyone. I want new families to be happy and excited to raise smart kids that are going to our schools and participate in the businesses that are here. And the other thing I would like to do is to inspire the younger generations, especially after the events of yesterday at the high school in River Bluff. I want them to understand that we hear them. You can be a part of this governance. You can do work too. You can stand up, you can be ready to help out and make a change in the world. And that's what I'm hoping to do with just the youth in this community, get them inspired and all of that good stuff. But the other part is, if you get them inspired, they want to help out and reach out and make everything warmer for everyone else. And that is one of my main points. Another main point of mine is, forgive me, another main point of mine is that I love downtown. I love all the businesses that are down here. I've only lived downtown about 6 or 7 months now, but as I said, I've been here my whole life. And this experience of living downtown Stoughton, I want everyone to feel that too. So I'm for the sustainable growth and for the riverfront development to get more businesses in. Because these small mom and pop shops make everybody feel warm, welcome, and at home. And that is the main issue that I want to press, is that people are welcome, they know that their voices are heard in their government, and they're properly represented. So, without further ado, I would just like to say thank you very much for having me up here. And yeah.
And now we'll move on to the race in District 3, where we have Duran Bradford running against incumbent Regina Hirsch. Regina, why don't we start with you?
Good evening. I'm Regina Hirsch, and I'm running for re-election in District 3. I want to first thank the Hub and the Chamber for organizing this forum and allowing all candidates to present their ideas. I want to continue on City Council because I enjoy working for you. I believe in a strategic and sustainable growth that balances more housing options with quality public safety services like police, fire, EMS, and our public works that works with our roads and our beautiful trees, as well as being fiscally responsible budgets. Sustainable growth also means increasing parks and trails, skilled labor jobs, and transportation options, both within the city and commuting to other communities, and especially to Madison. The initiatives that I would like to continue or start in this next term is one, to aggressively pursue the DOT in the city for a stoplight or a roundabout at Roby Road. This week we just found out that the DOT now has funding for this intersection, but it might not be constructed until 2022. I believe 4 years is too long to wait for this dangerous intersection to be built, and I will work with the DOT and the city to come up with options and hopefully get it fixed as soon as possible. Second, I want to increase skilled labor opportunities. I will propose a golden shovel program that packages and markets development-ready land for new businesses. In the last 2 years, I've talked to a Dane County rep that places new companies in communities, and he said that many companies were interested in Stoughton, but because we didn't have this development-ready land, they went elsewhere. I don't want us to miss any more opportunities for future skilled labor jobs to come here. Third, as a chair of the Park and Recs, I've worked hard to get the splash pad and the solar-powered shelter at Nordic Ridge, and we're currently working on a new playground. I want to see that through, as well as the KPW park that we worked on hard to come up with a good design, as well as the Whitewater Park. This Whitewater Park will be sound, it will be environmentally friendly, and will bring new tourists and excitement into the community. Fourth, I want to work on that community task force that I talked about last week at the CARES Forum. I believe that we need to have a task force that is a team approach to best address this growing problem, and I'm eager to start working on that. Fifth, I want to continue on the RDA with the Riverfront redevelopment project. We worked really hard to get that charrette and garner all your ideas last year. I want to encourage a new developer to come in and use those ideas to create a new and beautiful riverfront development. These are just a few projects I wish to accomplish. As always, I continue to work with you to create a robust economy, healthy environment, and strong community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Regina. And now I'd like to welcome Duran Bradford.
Good evening. Wow, this is some turnout. Thank you, Stoughton. I want to thank the host for the opportunity to speak to the citizens of Stoughton tonight, and to this audience for taking the time out to listen to all of us. Bless you for that. I'm Duran Bradford, and I'm running to become your alder for the 3rd District. I want to serve all the residents of Stoughton, knowing that the decisions that I'll be asked to make will affect everyone in town, everyone who works here, and everyone who interacts with us. I got involved because I saw a kind of disconnect between what the city was excited about doing, the citizens of the city, and what the council was delivering and informing the public about. The conduct and the interactions that I saw over the last year and a half between the council and the community and our wonderful staff, I didn't think was reflecting the best that Stoughton has to offer. We have a wonderfully rich history and heritage that I've become aware of, being a new citizen. It's amazing, and you have so much about innovation and forward movement in your past, and yet all of that history and heritage was being lost on crumbling bricks downtown, instead of being celebrated and modeled for a new generation as an example of ingenuity and innovation. Going forward, I want to make a difference. It's something my parents instilled in me very young. My first volunteer job was cleaning windows at a local shelter. So I had that instilled in me, and when I'm not trying to do something to contribute, I just don't feel right. I want to see some productive change, a way that we vision Stoughton in the future. I know from my 40-plus years of experience, both as a mission developer with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and as a realtor and in other business ventures and other service organizations, that the first thing is a good foundation. And so what I'd like to do is encourage that foundation of effective communication and trust. I believe there's been a breakdown of some of that, and I want to work to put it back together. With that kind of foundation in place, we'll be able to discern the best and most inclusive approaches to our challenges. But there are approaches we can take now to immediately get moving forward in Stoughton. As I said, I'm a realtor, and if we want families to come to Stoughton, we need to have houses for them to buy. Right now, the inventory for the last 3 years has not been enough to satisfy the demand. If we want businesses to come to Stoughton, we need to expand our business park locations and our infrastructure out there, especially for young companies that don't want to build, the ones that want to rent, and that's what's not available right now. We need to improve the electric capabilities out there and our internet to make those companies want to locate. We need to put the emphasis on the economic development now. It's overdue. Sensible, fiscally responsible growth in a community needs commitment, consistency in planning, hard-nosed budgeting, study, and time. But it's action, decisive action with follow-through that gets things done. And so I'm asking you for your vote. I'm humbly asking you to consider me, and I will promise you that I will do everything to try and get results and get things done.
I see there's a very large crowd here, and a lot of people are standing in the back. There are seats here. Maybe at this moment, if you want to kind of fill in a bit. As we transition to the mayoral, I will look for more chairs, but please fill in where you can. Before that, though, we're going to hear from the candidates who are running for the position in District 4. So if I could please have come up Dennis Pintz and Nicole Wiesinger. Nicole, why don't we start with you?
Good evening, and thank you all for coming for this opportunity. I'm deeply invested and committed to our community, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve on City Council as a representative voice for our community members as we honor and retain Stoughton's unique identity and rich heritage while building our future. My professional experience in strategic planning, policy analysis, and leadership will be useful on the Council, as well as my deep understanding of systems, organizations, and change management. I believe we need a council that's representative of our community. We need the voice and perspective of young families in our body of elected officials, and I can bring that to council. As I've said from the very beginning of this campaign, I'm committed to ensuring Stoughton is a place for everyone to live, work, and play now and in the future. Stoughton's been slower to grow and develop, which is not the case for some of the surrounding areas. This is an opportunity, as we now have the ability to do it in a strategic way. We need to make decisions that benefit the present and also the future. For example, ensuring the completion of safe, family-friendly bike trails that offer a mode of transportation for locals and a path for tourists to patronize our beautiful downtown and our state park. I believe in balanced growth throughout the city while supporting a vibrant downtown. An influential person in my life has been my grandpa. He was a carpenter, and he built 2 homes on Lake Higanza to raise his family. I've learned a lot from his stories of building those homes. He had a plan, a well-informed plan, an educated plan. He was creative. He leveraged his resources. He was environmentally conscious, forward-thinking, fiscally responsible, and was successful in building those homes because he took the time and care to do it right. And those homes met his family's needs then, and they will continue to meet the needs of other families for the next 100+ years. That's what we need to do as a city. We have the opportunity to grow and develop, and we need to get it right. We must grow and develop to guarantee a vibrant future. We need sustainable growth with new elements that make Stoughton a place people want to live and visit. We need to attract and retain new families to Stoughton to curb declining enrollment. Council needs to partner with the school district and community stakeholders to tackle pressing issues such as homelessness, increased poverty, and substance abuse. We need fiscally responsible budgets with transparent and communicative government. In District 4, we need to address the safety of Roby Road and Highway 51. We need to preserve natural landscape in residential areas, and we need to explore community solutions such as a park and ride. I keep saying we throughout this, and that's intentional, because we need to work together to make these changes. We signifies inclusion. I'm committed to ensuring a broader spectrum of voices from our community are included when making decisions. Hard decisions need to be made, and we need people in elected positions who can understand multiple sides of an issue, can solicit and represent community input, and can work to build consensus on these issues in the council so we can get action. I can do that, and I hope to have your vote on April 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And next we have Dennis Pintz.
Thinking about what I was going to say for the last 3 months, everything just went right out the window. So I look at it this way, it says Stoughton needs to grow, and I'm going to dovetail a lot on what everybody else has to say, but it's how we get there. We've been in a delay mode for years. I've seen Stoughton grow. I've seen Stoughton stagnate, and it's this up and down motion that we've been doing with Stoughton for the last 40 years. We've got to do something about this. We are at a standstill right now. We are experiencing a low growth, a no growth cycle. We need to have bodies in our school systems. We need to support our school systems. And we need to support the arts and the music in our school systems. One of my favorite stories is our son James went through the music department. It started out at Higanza as a little kid, worked his way up through grade school, middle school, and on into college and high school then college. And watching him thrive in the music department has just been phenomenal. Sure, he's got into a little trouble from time to time, but what kid doesn't? But for the most part, he's active and was active, and he carries that forward all these years later. I became a resident of Stoughton area back in 1977. I was sent an assignment from, when I was working in broadcast, out to the VFW. And we came in with a news cruiser and came right down 51 through town, and I go, wow, what a quaint community we have, what a quaint community we live in. And so a year and a half later, I moved out here. 40 years later, I'm still here. And the thing of it is, I've seen a lot of growth, and I've said this before, but I've seen a lot of stagnation. And we need to decide what we want to do. Do we want to stagnate? Do we want to move forward? One of the big cruxes when I was working for the city back in the early 2000s is the big fight in the Walmart on the Linrood farm. I never did understand what the fight was all about because we already had Walmart. Big deal. Same thing this last pass. We had another go around with Walmart. We already had a Walmart. We got a better one now. The thing of it is, with the community all banding together, the city council finally got their act together and agreed with Kettle Park West. Already? Okay, so they agreed with Kettle Park West, but the long and the short of it is we need to grow. We need to secure our history and make our future, because Stoughton needs our young adults, our young families. Stoughton needs to thrive. And in order for Stoughton to thrive, we need to grow. Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will now move on to the mayoral forum. Tonight's discussion with mayoral candidates Bob McGeever and Tim Swadley will be led by Jim Ferroli, group editor of the Unified Newspaper Group, including the Stoughton Courier Hub. You guys please come on up and have a seat. Each candidate will be given a few minutes to introduce themselves. After that, Mr. Ferroli will present them with questions. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to answer the question, and there will be an optional 1-minute rebuttal offered to each candidate. If time allows, Mr. Ferroli will ask questions from the audience. I have note cards here that we can, I'll run them out and bring them up to Jim. I think I'll do it now and then at a midway point through. So if you think of something that's not being covered, you can let me know then too. As I pass these out, I'm also going to try and find more chairs, but there are still some more open up here if you'd like to have a seat. So would anyone like to raise your hand, please, if you'd like to have one of these cards. Thank you very much, and I give the evening over to Jim Ferroli.
Thank you. Is this working? Yep. Okay. Thanks, Laura. It's nice to not have to worry about all the details. Thanks for taking care of that. I'm Jim Ferroli. I'm the editor of the Stoughton Courier Hub, and I'm happy to be able to host this. Hopefully, we'll all learn a little something tonight. And it might take me a bit to get the timer right. Hopefully I'm getting this good, but bear with me if I don't. Each candidate, as she said, will get 2 minutes. I'm going to start with the first 3 questions. Don't really need a rebuttal period. And then after that, we'll start with the optional rebuttal, and I'll remind you when we get there. And the introduction is the first of those 3 questions. And as she mentioned, I'll slip in some questions from the audience. It might not be exactly the way you write them. I'll have to adapt them to our format. Is this coming through okay? Hello? That better? Okay. Got to be a little closer, I guess. Do a little Jim Morrison. Okay, so I'll adapt the questions as appropriate for this format, and I might slip some in between the questions. We'll just see how it works. So with that, the first question is, and I'm going to start with Tim, Why are you running, and why should the people of Stoughton vote you into office?
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me back there. A little more? Okay. Okay. You didn't start the timer yet, did you?
Nope, I didn't.
How's that? Is that any better? Better? More? More?
I'm going to just pull it closer. That worked for me.
That work for you? Okay, well, I would like to thank the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce and the Stoughton Courier Hub for hosting this event, all the candidates, the audience, and the Mayor Olson for many years of public service to Stoughton. Last year, many in the community, some I didn't even know, approached me and asked me to run for mayor. They recognized I had the management knowledge and leadership skills needed, combined with public service experience to move Stoughton forward. On a personal note, Stoughton has been very good to me. In 1985, Lori and I learned about a self-help program for first-time home ownership in Stoughton. Together with 12 other families, we built 13 homes and raised our families here. In 2003, we opened up Pizza Pit, and we now help local organizations as much as we can. The mayor's role has changed dramatically over the years. We need both an ambassador and an effective administrator. By using my 38 years of professional management experience and 13 years of public service experience, 7 as a school board member, 6 as a city council member, the past 2 as council president, I will use our past successes to continue to build a community we can all be proud of. The support I continue to receive while going door to door, phone calls, emails, and Facebook has been extremely humbling. I'm excited to have the opportunity to discuss my vision of Stoughton this evening. My vision includes assuring open and transparent government, running efficient city services, creating fiscally responsible budgets, promoting smart and strategic growth, and seeking collaborative solutions. Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Chamber, and can you guys hear? Okay, thank the Chamber and the Hub for putting this on. And I'm asking for your vote tonight because, like most of you, I've been watching with growing alarm how the current council leadership responds to economic growth opportunities. They always seem to find a way not to take advantage of an opportunity. I've come to think of them as the do-nothing group. The last straw for me was when the developer for the riverfront redevelopment walked away from the project, politely telling Stoughton that we just don't have our act together. The city of Stoughton has experienced very limited economic growth for the past 15 years. While nearby communities have been taking advantage of their opportunities, we have not. The lack of economic growth means we are a city with shrinking fiscal capacity to provide city services. For the ability to provide city services, we are ranked the lowest city in Dane County. This is why we struggle to find funding for public safety staffing needs. The lack of economic growth means the cost of providing city services is increasingly borne by the single-family homeowners. Stoughton's tax rate is already one of the highest in the county. The lack of economic growth is hurting our school system. New enrollments have dropped from 300 students to about 200 students per year. The small class size is threatening the school system's ability to provide the depth and breadth of programs that parents are looking for their kids. We have 2 significant near-term opportunities for economic growth that the Do-Nothing group on the council has blocked. The riverfront redevelopment and Phase 2 of Kettle Park West. We should complete these as quickly as possible. They will add about 14% boost to our tax base and move the burden off of the homes. I am asking for your vote tonight because I am the candidate that is truly dedicated to Stoughton's economic future, and I know if we work together, we can make it happen.
All right, thank you. Now we're gonna switch the order. We're gonna rotate the order, so we're gonna start with Bob on this question. And what is the biggest challenge Stoughton faces in the next 4 years?
The lack of growth. We have got to get ourselves growing again. Give me a minute. Okay, the biggest challenge is the lack of growth. It ripples through anything that we might possibly consider doing. It's going to limit what we can do for new staff. It's going to keep the school board from filling the seats that it needs. I mean, it all comes down to we haven't been growing for the last 15 years. We're barely able to put our budget together. We don't know how we're going to find the money for the emergency service staff we need. The city has to go back to being the city that actually does things. Right now, we have a reputation around the county we're the do-nothing city. We need to become the city that knows how to take advantage of its opportunities and keep this community growing so that it doesn't turn into some sort of, right now we're aging out. We're turning into a retirement community. We need to grow to keep the quality of this city going, to preserve the downtown, and to keep the school district competitive with all the other surrounding school districts.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. One of the reasons I first ran for city council 6 years ago was after sitting on the school board for many years, I recognized that growth was certainly an issue that was creating challenges for the school district. And it wasn't just the lack of growth, it was lack of planning for growth. And the difference between my opponent and myself is I have a plan for growth. My plan evolves around collaboration, and the first thing we need to do is earn the trust of the community, which has been lost over the last several years because of the way things have been handled in City Hall. That's the main reason why I'm excited to run for mayor, so we can change that and we can earn the trust back of the community. As mayor, what I'll do is I'll define a role for an economic development person or some sort of a city planning position. I'll also look for exploring funding options for that position. Other things that I plan on doing is assigning committees and staff responsibilities as it relates to what's in our comprehensive plan. Right now, as far as I know, anything that we approved in our plan has not been assigned to any group in order to complete that. There's strategies, there's goals and objectives in there. As mayor, I'll make sure they're carried out. I will utilize data from a community-wide survey that will be in my first budget, and that will help get feedback from the community on how they would like to grow, how much they would like to grow, and some ideas on how we can achieve our goals. I will develop strategies to recruit businesses and families to consider Stoughton their home, and work with developers who share our vision and goals. I've already initiated joint meetings with the school board. That will continue, and I expect that to happen at an accelerated pace so we can work together in order to grow our community.
Okay, thank you. And this next question might duplicate a little bit of some of what you've said. But what would you hope to have accomplished by the end of this 4-year term?
Who's first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Start with
Okay.
Tim.
So, as I mentioned in my opening statement, one of the things I want to do is focus on open and transparent government. And what that means is to encourage and embrace and respect community input. The community-wide survey I already mentioned, and that's to gain feedback not only on growth issues, but on city services. We need to have an understanding of what services that we provide are important to our citizens and how well we're delivering on them services. Because if there's things that we're doing that are not important to our constituents, why would we continue to invest money on that? If there's other things that's more important, we need to know what they are so we can make decisions in order to provide what our community wants. I will solicit ways to get more community feedback. One thing we're already working on is setting up a city social media site. One of the problems that we've had the past several months is a lot of misinformation being posted on social media. If we have a city-sponsored site, we can put the information on there that is accurate, up-to-date, and inform the community when there's meetings that are going on. The survey will also provide us input on other communication strategies that the city could utilize. Right now, many people depend on the Hub and the cable TV channel. Both of those organizations do great work, but not everybody sits home and watches the meeting on TV or reads the Hub. Other things I'll do is work with staff, set goals and objectives. This is the first year we've ever had goals for City Council. That was something that I initiated. I will do the same thing for staff. We need to have a roadmap in order to get to where we want to go. Right now, we had nothing.
Go ahead.
Okay, the first thing I want to tackle is getting the riverfront redevelopment installed and running again and get it completed. This is a huge opportunity for the city, getting all those new residents living that close to the downtown within walking distance of the downtown. It'll do wonders for the economic growth in the downtown. Our downtown is right on the edge. Somebody earlier mentioned the fire and the hole. We almost, we got Kaganza Plaza out there. We learned in those days that every one of those buildings in the downtown is on the economic edge of not being replaced. Kaganza Plaza is in there because the council put some money in there. There is a public walkway through that building. Without that building, we would have had just a series of one-story storefronts around there. There just wasn't enough economic value in what they could get for the rent versus the replacement cost of those buildings. So we've got to make the downtown a better economic value. The next thing is KPW. It's adding all sorts of value to our tax base. We can get, 9 to 10% on phase 2 when we complete it, and we'll get even more than that out of phase 3. And that will move a lot of the tax burden off of the homeowners and over onto the business and commercial and higher density stuff that the other communities in town are using, or the other communities in Dane County are doing, so that they have the ability to provide services without stressing out the single-family homeowners. A problem that's been going back for, at least 30 years, we don't really have a plan on public safety staffing. We've been muddling through there. As a manufacturing engineer, I spent a lot of time designing staffing plans. I want to create a long-term staffing plan for the police department, the EMS, and the fire department. The volunteers are doing a wonderful job, but we do need to have a plan on how someday we're going to replace the volunteer service.
Okay, thank you. Now, from this point on, we're going to have rebuttals available if you like, and we're going to again start with Bob. And the question here is, should the Stoughton mayor's position continue to be full-time, or should the city hire a professional administrator?
We've been kicking that question around all the ways back to the days of Mayor Cooper, and neither side has made a strong case one way or the other. In part of my campaign, I have a number of ex-city department heads, and they have convinced me that this is something that will have some definite value in transition. So I want to be the mayor that puts this issue to bed. We will, after we get a few other top priorities done, do the heavy lifting and the job design to create a business manager position. We should be able, as part of that process, to have the data that's needed to convince the citizens that this is a worthwhile step, it's a change in the government we should make, and it's worth the extra cost.
Okay. Go ahead.
Bob's right, this issue has been tossed around many times, a couple times since I've been on the city council. And the last study that we received said that when the population reaches about 20,000, that's when the city should really consider looking at a city administrator. What I bring to the table is I bring 38 years of management experience, various types of businesses, most of them customer service related. My current position, I work as an implementations project manager, so I help solve problems. I get solutions for our customers, and those are the types of things that a city manager would have to work on. One of the things that's held us back from having the conversation is money. A position like that is going to cost well over $100,000. When I was on the school board, we had 4 administrators in 7 years. Stoughton was kind of the first step in a career path for an administrator, and it cost the school district a lot of money, and it costs even more money when you had an administrator that needed to be replaced. So at this point, I certainly would not support going that route. I think there's a lot more work that would need to be done. The community's not at a point population-wise where we could support it, and I believe I have the experience that would make me more of an administrator type mayor than just the ambassador type mayor that we've had in the past.
Okay. Do you have any response?
Yeah. We currently have problems during changes of administration. We have been lucky over the years to get mayors that have some pretty decent administrative experience. You've got 2 guys sitting up here with lots of experience in administration. But we're not always going to be able to count on that. Waiting until we get to 20,000 people is just, again, doing nothing, and we've got a problem we can see here. We should work this through, and by the time the next election is up, we should have made the decision as a community whether we're going to need a city manager or if we're going to keep rolling the dice that we'll always get a mayor who's qualified to do the executive functions.
Tim, you have a response?
Well, you know, I think we pretty much covered this subject. You know, like I said, I think that the difference between Bob and myself is I have the management experience. I have business ownership experience, so I know how to do budgets. I know how to make payroll. I know how to hire people, train people. I know how to work with all different types of people, from teenagers with their first job to people that are in retirement. I have many years of experience with many different types of people, different levels of positions. I meet with CEOs in some of the largest manufacturing plants in the Midwest on a daily basis with my regular job. I will use that experience in order to make Stoughton a better place and to manage our employees. Right now, one of the biggest weaknesses we have is a lack of leadership and management skills in City Hall.
Okay, thank you. This next question is going to be, I'm pulling this in from the audience and I'm adjusting it a little bit. And you both have cited management experience, and experience is something, but what is your management style? And this one starts with Bob. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. This one starts with Tim. What is your management style?
Well, my management style has actually changed over the years. When I was young and pretty aggressive, I had basically a my way or a highway management style. And that used to work back in the day. And what I've learned over the years is that the top-down approach doesn't work like it used to. And what you need is you need to have a management style that encourages communication from those that you're working with. And that's what I'll do as mayor. I'll meet with the leadership team, we'll come up with some ideas, we'll set some goals and some objectives and carry out some strategies in order to reach those goals and objectives. So my management style is pretty easygoing. I'm very passionate about what I do. I take a lot of pride in what I do. Those that have worked with me know that I'll get as dirty as anybody that I have to work with, or I'll sit down and I'll meet with the CEO of a company that would want to move to Stoughton, or whatever I need to do to get the job done. And like I said earlier, I've had many years of management experience with different types of businesses, and I can use those experiences to help in different situations.
Go ahead.
Well, my management style was always team-focused and inclusive. I got lucky and started that way. I've got 20 years of manufacturing engineering experience where it was always a team process. Well, as I was telling one of the guys on the team, if everybody on the team thinks the way I do, then we're just not going to see all the other options that should be out there. I've always wanted a wide variety of people, a wide variety of perspectives, and you get a more powerful team that way. So again, the emphasis is on, we got a team, we're going to get some stuff done. It's a very open style. It is not confrontational. I have done projects where I had to go close a factory and move the stuff to Dane County. And in order to get that done on time and on budget, I had to have the staff at that other factory help me get it done. And we pulled that off several times, and that we is the team. And it was done with a style where it was quite humbling at the end. Several of these guys that had been in the company a lot longer than me, I had just basically taken away their jobs, and they walked up and shook my hand and said it was fun working with you. So never forget that it should be fun. You should want to come to work. We have a great staff down there at City Hall, and I'm really looking forward to working with them. I think we're going to get a lot of stuff done, and we're going to enjoy ourselves while we do it.
Okay. Tim, did you have any response to that? So we're going to switch over to development a little bit here. What is, and this we're going to start with Bob for this one. What is the best way forward with the highway trailers building and the riverfront development? Has it been handled the way it needs to be?
Well, I would say clearly not been handled the way it needed to be. The RDA voted to tear down the building a little over a year ago, and then that do-nothing block on the council got involved, and the building didn't get torn down. And then when we found out it was a safety hazard, nobody did anything to move it forward. We need to tear that building down as soon as possible, and that is in process, but there's a couple of months of engineering work that has to be done before it can be brought down. And then we need to get a good developer in here, maybe even the one that went away if we can get them back, and turn these professionals loose to drive that project through to conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, done.
We're moving along quickly here. Go ahead, Tim.
This is an area where there has been a lot of misinformation in the community. On March 14th of 2017, the City Council put a moratorium on the highway trailer complex. 4 weeks later, on April 11th, the moratorium was lifted on all of the buildings except for the blacksmith shop. 28 days later, what happened is nothing, and that was not the City Council's responsibility. The City Council's responsibility for the riverfront development is purely a money-related responsibility as it relates to a request from the redevelopment authority for funding to do demolition or anything else they want to do down there. The group that did nothing was the redevelopment authority, wasn't the City Council. In fact, on July 25th, I inquired with the city attorney at the council meeting about our role, and he basically said as much as it's up to the RDA as far as making a decision, and the council would make the decision on the funding of the demolition. In September, I called for a joint meeting. We had a committee of the whole meeting, and at that committee of the whole meeting, the council on an 8-3 vote voted to recommend that the redevelopment authority get a bid to demolish the building. Whatever happened from April until September, I don't know. So the council took the initiative in order to get that moving. It took 4 months to get the bid. We received the estimate in January from the RDA, and less than a month later in February, the city council voted on an 8-3 vote to demolish the building. Facts matter. What's been out in the community has been misrepresented, and the council has certainly done their part as it relates to the riverfront development.
Okay. Bob, do you have a response to that?
Oh, yeah, I totally disagree. I don't think you can blame the RDA for this. It wasn't the RDA that spooked the developer and had him leave town on us. That was council communications to the developer. That building should have been dealt with in day one. The reason anything came up with in February to get it started was Greg Jensen forced the issue. He put the thing on the agenda to move the demolition forward. I'm just a civilian sitting in on RDA meetings. I knew what the price was. I knew where the money was going to come from. None of this was secret stuff. If you wanted to get involved, it was just sitting there laying on the table, published domain. It is not leadership to wait until you're backed into a corner where everybody in the city is telling you that building has to come down, and then suddenly you're an advocate for bringing it down and getting something moving. Leadership would have dealt with this months ago.
Tim, do you have a response?
Sure, yeah. I don't know what leadership he's referring to. As I mentioned, in July 25th, which was just a week after the road was closed, I inquired about the council's role on the demolition of the building. It was an RDA project. The council voted to demolish the building, and I supported that a couple of times. So, and as far as the charrette, some people are still in denial of what happened there. The developer brought a plan to the charrette, got input from the community. It wasn't a match. The people said, we want some home ownership opportunities, we want some retail opportunities, and the developer wanted to put all apartment units down there. And also there was a plan to borrow over $1 million to expand Elvedstead, which was never even discussed with the city council.
Okay, I'm inclined to allow another round of this if you guys want to respond once more. It's up to you.
Sure.
All right. This is fun.
Maybe for you.
Well, again, I have a different take on it as a citizen. The right after the RDA voted 6-1 to tear the building down, the council changed the membership on the RDA. I sat in on a number of those meetings, and it was pretty stalled out down there. There's 2 aldermen that were on that committee. None of them were showing any urge to move ahead on the building. They were actually discussing ways to do something to preserve the building, even after we had the engineering report that said this thing's ready to fall down. It could hurt somebody any day now. So the council didn't show any sense of urgency in reacting to this, and they let it ride until one member forced the issue. And you can spin that story any way you like, but if you try to blame the RDA for this, they're not the ones that didn't move forward. They're not the one that stopped the design. They're not the ones that made the developer leave and tell us we just don't have our act together.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob. Go ahead, Tim.
Obviously, we're not going to agree on this issue. And the March vote that he talks about with the redevelopment authority, if you go and look at the agenda, there was nothing on that agenda that said there was going to be any discussion or action about demolishing the highway trailer building or accepting the Elvenstead proposal. So that was the main reason why the council showed enormous leadership and to change the makeup of the RDA. They were not following the rules. Since the council made the decision to change the makeup of the RDA, there's been better transparency, there's been financial information available, which we never had in the past. we're going to have a new TIF district started in the redevelopment area, which is going to give us 10 more years to complete the project. And what that does for us is it gives us more flexibility on what we want to do down there. So if the developer did want to come back, we certainly are in a better place now than we were in the charrette. That charrette wasn't quite ready for prime time because it wasn't anything the council had to do with. The council did their part. We saw a problem, we made change. The problems were caused by the lack of leadership in the city hall from the current mayor and from the former finance director.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Got some good talk on this one. We'll shift a little bit, keep it on the riverfront redevelopment, but I'd like to ask, this is somewhat coming from the audience. We've talked about low income, low density, high end, residential, commercials, a variety of things have been tossed around with riverfront redevelopment. I'm not sure that most people know what was planned there. There was a charrette to come up with a vision, but I guess the question is, should the city dictate what sort of things are in that development, or at least guide it? And if so, what should be there? And we are starting with Tim, I believe.
Well, I certainly believe that the city has a role in working in partnership with the developer as it relates to any development that occurs in our community. That didn't happen in Kettle Park West, and what it did is it divided the council, but worse yet, it divided the community. As mayor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in a collaborative manner and get community input and put plans together so when a developer comes to us, or better yet, when we go to a developer, we can lay out our vision for that development. A good example of that is occurring right now in Monona. They're doing a redevelopment project on Monona Drive, and last night at the RDA meeting, the city planner slash economic development person came down and did a presentation at the RDA and showed us how they were able to work with the developer in order to achieve the goals and objectives and their vision for that development. And much of that was based on dollars. On the riverfront development, we had a plan that was drafted in 2009. I've suggested in the past it really should be updated because the market has changed. One of the things that was said in that plan is there needs to be some apartments, some mixed use, and some condos. One of the things we learned, and I was in the real estate business for 7 years, is that it is more difficult to get loans to build condos than it was before the housing bubble collapsed. So we have to take a look at that plan, and we need to update it to reflect the current market. The proposal that we had in front of us was not consistent with that plan anyway. So that was one of the reasons why the developer left town, because his plan wasn't consistent with the plan we had in place, and it certainly wasn't consistent with the feedback that the community members provided at the charrette.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the city doesn't do the detailed planning. The city should be recruiting talented, well-respected developers who understand the marketplace and what we can do with this site. They also need to understand that the city has got a chunk of money down there that we need to get back. We have set it up as a TIF district. It's an investment. We're expecting to recoup our investment, and the development has to support that. We have implicitly promised the taxpayers that they won't have to put out any money for this riverfront development. The new TIF district will help that, but we've stalled so long on the first one that we now have to go to a secondary plan and create a new TIF district. The latest numbers I've seen indicate that we will be able to do more than break even on this, but it was a little dicey. None of us on the city council are architects or urban planners. We have goals and objectives. We have our long-term planning for our land use. We have our smart growth plans. We already have a pretty good sketch of what we want to do and where we want to do it. The thing to do now is to bring in the right kind of professional and get this project moving again.
Okay. Do you have a response?
Sure, I'll just make it quick. So one of the things that you heard earlier in my plan is to find a way to hire an economic development person or a city planner. That's something that we've been kicking around for years. We need to make an investment. Right now, the expectation is that the mayor, in combination with city staff members, that's our economic development team. That's where we're falling short. It's not because of a lack of effort. I know the mayor's worked very hard, and her team has worked right alongside with her, but they do have other responsibilities, and they're not really trained and educated in that particular field. We need to bring in an expert that can help us reach out to developers and share our vision and recruit them. Right now, we just sit there and we wait for the phone to ring, and when it rings, we ask them, what will it take to get you here? If I ran my business like that, I would have been out of business a long time ago. So what we need to do is move forward, get this position filled.
Okay. And do you have a response?
For a community our size, paying that much money for an economic developer, no, I'm not in favor of that right now. We have a consulting engineer that we've been working with for a long time by the name of Gary Becker. He's been involved with the RDA and other projects. I remember working with him before. We already have people available to us that can help us with the planning. We need to get a track record of actually taking some of this planning and making it happen. And after that, more people will show up that want to work with us. So throwing expensive staff into the mix, a supervisory position that has nobody to supervise, no, I don't think that's the right approach.
Do I get to?
I believe we went one round of, yep.
I think we're done.
Yeah, all right. No, that's right. Okay, so, but we'll be talking about economic development still.
Okay.
Of course.
So, yeah, it's pretty important. So this one starts with, this one starts with Bob again, am I right? Okay. Oh, I'm confused here. All right, well, the question is, no, Bob had the last one. Sorry, this one starts with Tim.
Okay.
How do you balance economic development and the need to bring in new families with keeping the city's character?
Well, one of the things I've heard as I've walked around and talked to people in the community is we really don't want to lose our hometown feel. And what we need to do is find that balance. And what my plan does is when I talk about a strategic growth plan or a smart and strategic growth or whatever you want to call it, what that means is having a vision for what we want as a community. And that's getting information from the people that live here and putting together a package that we can take to developers so they know what the expectations are when they get here. Right now they really don't, because we have city staff telling them one thing, and then when they get here they discover something else out because we're not all on the same page. And that's just the way it is, and we need to work on that. We need to all get on the same page, and I think we have the ability to do that. We have, as Bob mentioned, we have a comprehensive plan. We have some studies that we've done in the past. Working with the school district, we can identify what the needs are in order to fill up our schools. Currently they're working on a facility study so that we'll know how many students can fit in our schools without building new schools. If you read some of the comments from the communities that have grown, they're experiencing growing pains. Verona, Sun Prairie, they're really concerned about the number of multi-unit apartment complexes that are going up. They're concerned about being able to provide city services. They're concerned about transportation issues. They're concerned about many things that come with growth, and they all come at a cost. Part of the challenge is to have a steady plan that encourages consistent growth over the years, because the money, based on the way the spending caps work, lags the growth. So you don't actually get the money for the growth until at least a year later, when you're already been providing the city services.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, in the research and the conversations I've had with the concerning the school district, they're not concerned with having to build more buildings. We have capacity for growth in this town. Our sewer plant is running at 50% capacity. There can be a whole lot more of us here in town before we have to do any infrastructure work. I'm not sure balance is the critical issue right now. For us, it's building up a head of steam. We got to get back into the game. We've got to be known as a city that does things. Developers will come down and talk to us. Not all of them will be compatible with where we want to go, but a lot of them will. We're not going to preserve the Stoughton we've all known and loved the way we're going now. We're aging out. We're turning into an old folks' home. Again, we don't have enough kids coming in to keep the school district running. So we need a lot of housing development. We need stuff that's called worker housing. People who are getting their first jobs, they need a place to live, something they can afford. Not everybody's going to be living out at KPW or out at Milwaukee and Hull Avenue. We need a wider variety of housing stock. And I think we got a long ways to go before we have to worry about imbalance. We need to just get moving.
Okay. Tim, you have a response for that?
Sure. So this is where I'm going to come back to the, having a dedicated economic development person. Verona just went through the process of hiring one. They had it posted between $65,000 and $75,000 a year, which to me is money well invested. Verona is a community that's growing. I don't know if they've reached the population of Stoughton yet, but they have to be getting close. Maybe a little bit under. And if we bring that person in, that person is going to be able to help the city council, help the mayor, and help the community put together this plan that needs to be done. There's just not enough capacity in our current staffing levels, especially in the planning department, in order to achieve whatever type of growth my opponent is proposing here. I'm not really even sure what that is. But he is right. There's room in our schools. There's certainly could fill up some of the classrooms a little bit more. I've been involved with that with the facilities committee. I've been through the process of closing the school, and I know how painful that is for the community. I'd like to be able to fill the schools back up.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm talking economic growth. That's more jobs, more employers, more commercial and business activity, more housing, more of all the good stuff that runs a community. If I had 75, 80 grand to spend on staff right now, I would probably put it into safety personnel. We had to hustle pretty hard. I watched the council go through that. There was some very creative financing just to add one officer last year. The chief says we need more. I think he's right. If I'm the mayor, we've got some proving to do. But if I can hire a bureaucrat that isn't going to be kept busy full-time for a population our size, or a couple of police officers, which we clearly need, I'm going to go with the police officers, and the city staff and its consultants can do the development work. We're not big enough for it even to be a full-time job yet.
Okay. We could probably talk about economic development all night, but
It's so exciting.
It is exciting.
I'm going to ask Bob. There has been a lot of division on the council lately, in case you haven't noticed.
No.
What is the role of the mayor in getting elected officials to cooperate?
Well, it's the team leader, but let's be honest, it takes two to tango. There is a block on the council that doesn't want to work with the mayor. Some of them probably won't want to work with me if I'm the mayor. But I think we're asking the wrong question. The real question is, when will the do-nothing block on the council learn to work with the rest of this community and get us growing again? I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. That was quick. Go ahead.
Certainly I take offense to the term the do-nothing group. I mean, really, if you think about what we've accomplished here in the last 2 years, Nordic Ridge Development has 40 lots that are either sold or are pending right now. Arnett's property is ready to go. As soon as he gets permission from the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission, he's going to build 20-some more homes out there. We just learned Tuesday night that at Kettle Park West, on April 10th, the DOT is going to come down and present the agreement that we've negotiated with the township, the city, the developer, and the DOT in order to provide the access issue. The access issue is important for public safety reasons. It's important because it's part of the plan. And according to the state statute, the development needs to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. That road was part of that plan. The city council did absolutely the right thing by making sure that we have an agreement with the DOT now before we go and move forward with that development. What's happened in the past, we haven't gotten these kind of agreements. If you go down South Van Buren, where the two Milwaukee streets come together, they're both dead-end roads. They don't connect because nothing was ever negotiated when that development was done. If you go back a few years ago, out by Paradise Pond, we had to go back there and spend $500,000 of taxpayers' money because things weren't done properly back then. If you look at the Roby Road debacle, there's another example where we're quick to put in a development and we've been paying the price for how many years out there? And it's still a dangerous situation. As mayor, I'm going to make sure that we negotiate deals that are in the best short and long-term interest of our community.
Okay, do you have a response?
Well, as mayor, I would do the same thing. It's the responsible way to go. Some of the history you just brought up was interesting. The development out at Nordic Ridge was actually something that started back when I was on the Planning Commission, 2005, 2006. The reason it's coming together now is it didn't go anywhere because the bottom fell out of the market. That was there just waiting for the market to come back. That isn't anything that the recent council has worked on. When I was on the Planning Commission, I had two pet peeves: traffic and stormwater control, because I remember Doug Fundeller walking me around town when I was a rookie, showing me all the stuff we screwed up and making notes to not do that when I was on the Planning Commission. You do the job right on the development. Because it was done wrong in the 70s doesn't mean we haven't learned how to do it. Rodney is really good at this stuff. We're not going to make that kind of mistake any longer.
Go ahead.
So, you know, getting back to this do-nothing council, I thought maybe at some point tonight Bob would accuse the city council of causing the housing bubble and the Great Recession, but fortunately that hasn't happened. You know, when we talk about the council and the division, that was caused by the city administration. It was caused because of the lack of transparency regarding the KPW issue. There were secret negotiations going on which violated our own policies that the administrators didn't even inform the city council that we had. And it not only created mistrust with the council, but more importantly, the community. And what I'm going to do as mayor is I'm going to earn that trust back. I've already got, if you include myself, 8 of the 12 council members endorsing me. I think what you can expect from my opponent is more of the same policies of the past, and those aren't going to work going forward.
All right, well, Tim, this is a nice little segue, because my next question actually for you is, how would you handle this post differently from how it has been handled the last 8 years?
I'm sorry, can you?
How would you handle this post differently from how it's been handled the last 8 years?
Well, I'm going to handle this position a lot differently. I'm going to be more hands-on as far as working with the department heads in order to set goals and objectives and carry them out. I'm going to be more like a city manager than an ambassador. I'm going to spend more time in Stoughton listening to the constituents instead of going to meetings in Madison that really doesn't bring back anything that helps us locally. And, you know, I've already been getting some great ideas as I go out in the community, and I'm already establishing relationships with people from the cab service, some of the residents in town, some of their needs, and I'm already in a position to deal with them. I've already been at the table 3 times with the DOT regarding traffic issues. So, and those people have come down here to talk to us. We haven't had to necessarily run to them every time. So what I want to do is work in collaboration, whether it's the DOT, our state legislators, the school district, or the community, in order to get information and make that public. It's the communities, it's their money, it's their taxpayers. We work for them. We provide services for the residents of this community. They have a right to know what we're doing. And that's what the transparency is all about. Updating the website so it's usable, creating a social media account so we can get information out, including people into the decision-making process instead of having these backdoor meetings and midnight signings on these huge decisions that have been occurring the last several years in our community. That's going to stop.
Go ahead.
Well, apparently I don't think the local government is as corrupt as been some implications here. We get audited every year. The finances are solid. The midnight signing, you had everybody that was supposed to be there that night. The council had authorized it. It was signed after the meeting. That's not a conspiracy. That's not something corrupt. They're all in the room. It's been authorized. We're going to finish the deal and keep this project moving. The mayor is always a collaborative position. You meet with all sorts of people, all sorts of teams, and sometimes you might go up to Madison to get some help from the state legislature or something. My style is open, and it's open and communicative, even though I'm having a little trouble with that right now. Trying to find the right words. And the clock is ticking.
It's okay.
Open style communications and the transparency issue. That's where I was trying to go. Transparency, as it's been presented, seems to move around. It seems to me to be it's mostly an issue of communications. The city would be doing a much better job with communications. Well, it's doing better than it was when I was an alderman, but we haven't had enough economic growth, so we haven't been able to invest in the staff. We've only had our IT guy for a year. Give him a chance. There's a lot of information out there for the citizens. I know it's not well displayed. We will fix that. Wisconsin has a history of transparent government. Stoughton is part of that history.
Tim, you have a response?
So I haven't heard anything tonight that would lead me to believe that anything would be any different as Bob as mayor, as our current mayor, and that's a real problem. As I mentioned earlier, I have the support of the council. I believe I have the support of the community to go forward with the plans that I've outlined tonight. And I think it's important that to have somebody be able to go in there from day one that's already had established trust and confidence to get the job done and not have to start that process on day one, because we don't know how long or if it'll ever occur. And that's a real challenge for us, because that'll put us, behind where we want to be. What we want to do is we want to hit the ground running and go forward. I've been involved with the city council and the school district for the last almost 14 years now. So I have a pretty good pulse of what's going on in the community, and I'm willing to listen to our constituents, even when I don't necessarily agree with them. But at the end of the day, collectively, the community knows more than we do individually.
Oh, I can hit the ground running. I've got 30 years of experience with this government. I have stayed in touch with it. I know all the department heads. I have a rough idea of what they're working on. Hitting the ground running isn't going to be the problem. What will be different when I'm mayor is you're going to see that we're going to have more development. We're going to get to the low-hanging ones that are out there, the fruit that's ready to be picked, and we're going to grow the tax base in this town so that the single-family homeowners aren't paying for everything. we grow that tax base, we'll actually have money to even improve the services we've got, to get the number of public safety people we need. It will be different because it'll be growing. We'll be doing things again.
All right. Going to switch up a question that I had in there and try to combine a couple that I got from the audience. We've talked a little bit about communication, about transparency, but more importantly about how do you communicate with people. And I've heard you guys toss around some ideas, but maybe we can be a little bit more focused on what is the best way to make sure that the citizens are engaged and have all the information that they need to stay engaged. And this one is Bob's turn. Thank you.
Well, we do a much better job with the website than we've done historically. From my campaign experience here, the citizens are really engaged. They just don't know where to find the information. The website is not all that great. We're on live TV tonight. I mean, we're out there offering them lots of opportunities, but some of them are just not very user-friendly. We'll have to communicate better over the internet, and I think we can do more with an occasional newsletter. Right now we're quarterly. I'm sure we can do things to get it out more often. And sometimes if you're doing the job right, the communications they're comfortable with it. It's out there. So yeah, we're going to have to make more use of electronic media and the internet, and we're going to have to be sure that people can understand how to do it. I took a long time to try to download the packets when I started getting back into this. It's just not that user-friendly, and I have had other people complain about that. So polish up what we've got. It's a good start. After we get that working smoothly, we'll see what else they suggest. There's Facebook, there's other electronic media, but right now the core thing is to get that website fixed and user-friendly.
Go ahead.
So the question was, what's the best way to get the community engaged and communicate with them? Well, the best way is to ask them how they want to be communicated with. And that's exactly what the school district did when I was on the school board when we put out the first community survey. We put a list of all the different ways people could get communication, and what the school district found, and no offense to the hub, but it wasn't number one, and either was WSTO. So people were getting information back then mostly by email. Now that's changed since then, and that's why it's important to do these surveys periodically so you can get the information and get it to the people the way it's most convenient to them. Right now it seems like when people want information, they have to hunt for it. And really the attitude at City Hall has been, well, it's on our website, it was in the Tower Times, it's on the WSTO. Well, that's just not good enough. People are really busy. You know, many of them have multiple jobs. They have kids who are running back and forth to different events. They're burning the candle at both ends, and even for myself it's difficult at times. So there's a variety of mechanisms, and the best way to identify what they are is just simply ask the people. And that's why the community-wide survey is really important. It's been something I've been trying to do since I've been on the city council. 6 years ago I asked if we could do that, and I've consistently hit a roadblock when I've been trying to get it, and it really made me wonder whether or not people in City Hall really wanted the information. I think they were afraid of what people were going to tell them. I'm not afraid of that. If we've got issues or we have problems, we need to know what they are and recognize them and start dealing with them, whether it's growth, whether it's opioid use, whether it's bullying in our community. We have to know what the problems are so we can put together a plan to solve them.
Okay, do you have a response?
Well, the city staff I've worked with has never been afraid of public input, listening to people. They are somewhat constrained by our financial situation right now, and we get a little loosening up in the budget. Yeah, survey would be good, but you got to have the money and the resources to respond to the survey. Again, right now, we can start with the website. We can fix it up. That'll get us a better line on how people use things. And of course, going door to door and talking to people, I'm hearing things. Most of it is still, if we can just get that website user-friendly, that would be a real good start to improving the communications.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, I don't think money really is the issue here. We can invest in doing this survey in a variety of ways, so I see that as a non-issue. Starting with the website, yeah, we're already doing that. Alderperson Reeves has been working on our committee with our IT person to improve our website, to establish a social media site, so that's important. But what's really important is to hear from our constituents and find out whether it's Facebook, whether it's a tweet, whether it's a letter in the mail, or whatever is most convenient from them. And depending on where you go in town, it could be different. And that's what's the beauty of the survey is you can sort it by demographics. So if you have a population of students, they may get information one way, but another population of senior citizens may get it in a total different way. And we need to know that so we can make sure that all the stakeholders in our community get the information in a way that's most convenient to them.
All right, so we're running short on time. Do you guys mind if we go an extra few minutes?
Sure.
Okay. So I've got a couple more questions left, or maybe three. So with our schools, we have seen open and rolling out of the district. We've seen shrinking programs. Most of that is tied to simply lack of people in the district and budget constraints. Is it the city's duty to support the school district? And if so, what is the best way to do so? Tim's up. Thanks.
So certainly in order to have a healthy city, we need to have a healthy school system, because that's one of the main reasons people move to a community. It's usually school, parks, whatever opportunities that are out there. And that's something that is really important for the next mayor to recognize and be able to deal with that. The way the funding has been working, I know my opponent here talks about growing the tax base. I'm not really sure what he means by that, because really the only way we can generate new revenues is based on what they call the net new construction. And that's the dollars that we get for new building permits, basically. And that changed in 2011 when Governor Walker came in office. We used to be guaranteed that we could raise our revenues by 3% a year, which covered our cost of living increases. And most of our budget is staffing, 70-some% of our budget is staffing. And when the governor did that, it really took a lot of resources away from our budget. That's something that needs to be addressed. As mayor, that's one of the things I want to talk about with our state legislators and with other mayors in other communities, because Stoughton actually grew in net new construction last year higher than the state average. There were only 6 counties that grew more than Stoughton did. Dane County was one of them. We certainly lag in Dane County, but you take out the Veronas and the Windsors and Cambridge and Sun Prairie and some of the others, we're really not that far behind. Are we where we want to be? Definitely not, but it's not like there are not other, it's not like there's other communities that aren't having the same conversation we are about growth. We have to put together a plan that's realistic. And I have a plan in order to grow, and I'm still waiting to hear what my opponent's plan is.
Well, of course, it's the city's responsibility to work with the school board. There are at least 2 legs on a stool. I'm not sure how many legs there is on that stool, but it's the combination of the city government and the school district that makes people want to come to live here. So yeah, they've got to work as a team. We have to support them. The best way we can support them is to keep the family housing up and have people come and make this a place that people want to come and live. To have a detailed plan for growth would be a little presumptuous on the part of elected officials. What we need to do is to encourage people to come in here, have a reputation for being easy to work with, so they'll come in and share their good ideas, and then we can pick the ideas that are good for us within our plans, and the ones that don't fit into where we want to go as a community, we just say thank you, but no, that's not going to be it. City Hall is not a detailed development agency. We just have to attract the friendly talent that's out there with the good ideas by being an outfit that people can come in and work with.
So when we talk about being easy to work with, I'm not really sure what the definition of that is. To me, what it is us having a vision and a plan. So when we're talking at the table with developers, we know what we want going into a negotiation. Otherwise, we end up with a bad deal. And that's what we have at KPW, is a bad deal. We gave away the farm. $4 million we gave to a developer out of our borrowing instead of theirs, which will take up to 16 years to recoup. At the point when that development was occurring, we were told that the Roby Road intersection was going to be completed by the DOT. As soon as they heard that we were going to do the improvements at Jackson Street, they pulled Roby Road off the table. So being easy to work with is sometimes costly. KPW also hurt our school district because it created more property value with no students. Property value is one of the key components in the school funding system, so that development out there actually hurt the amount of revenue the school district gets.
Go ahead. I don't think KPW was a bad deal for the city. We have invested out there, and it has been $4 million. And we're going to get that back, and we're going to make money on that investment. And, you know, if the city really, or the citizens really thought it was such a bad idea, go out and take a look at what's going on in that commercial center. The citizens are out there voting with their feet and their money in favor of that thing. They wanted us to get some commercial center type activity going. They're supporting it. That $4 million is going to pay back really good. Someday we're going to use some of that to set up a affordable housing program, because that TIF is going to make money for us, and we can slice some of that extra money off, put it in a revolving loan fund, and come up with a revolving loan fund for affordable housing. It's a good investment, and it's helped the community.
Well, you guys are giving me some great unexpected segues. So my next question was, we've had talk about the downtown TIF struggling, about the riverfront TIF not getting going, and about the Kettle Park West, the first TIF, but there's also a request out there for another TIF money for another phase of Kettle Park West, and do you support that?
Who's first?
You're first, I'm sorry.
Yes, I do. The latest amount of money they're looking for is $4 million, and it's pay-go. The city doesn't have to go borrow anything anymore. We've got this project moving. We've planted some seeds, made an investment, but the rest of the TIF money for that project is going to be pay-go. It's not city borrowing, and we still get all the benefits of the TIF district and the payback. There's forecasts of something like $10 million of surplus when that thing closes. Pay-go TIF is great. We still have all the benefits of investing in ourselves, and the developer actually puts up all the money and he slowly gets paid back. In the interim, you know, it's an investment, folks. We're making money on these districts. We're going to have money we can use for other purposes, money that we can, like they did over in when the Epic closed down over there. There was lots of money spread out between all the taxing districts. The downtown TIF district, well, I was around when that came up. That was always, we were pushing it to try to get a downtown revitalization thing going. The revolving loan fund didn't work as good as we wanted. I haven't given up on downtown revitalization. We're going to have to take another run at that, but it'll be a lot easier to take a run at that when there's a lot more foot traffic down there, because there's a lot more people living within walking distance of the downtown because we've completed the riverfront redevelopment.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. So I'm not sure where the $4 million pay-go TIF came from. That's news to me. The last proposal that was brought to the city council was over $11 million for phase 2. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, and if it's from City Hall, please ask them to share it with the rest of us. 60% of the community in a non-binding referendum said they didn't want TIF money to be used for KPW. I agreed with that, and that's one of the reasons why I voted no, because the community didn't want that, and as a representative of the community, we need to listen to that. The mayor, many members of the council, and my opponent obviously support that. That is not what the city wants. And KPW is no Epic. I've been to Epic, and that is no Epic. So, like I said, the last proposal was over $11 million. Some of that was for on-site improvements. Our big box ordinance says that the developer pays for on-site improvements. That should not be included in the TIF. What I'm trying to do is work with the developer to come up with a much more reasonable number and then go to the community and see what they want to do for phase 2. I've also been working with the developer and the DOT to get that highway access issue resolved. If my opponent had it his way, they would already be building in phase 2, and that would never happen, and he'd be doing it with TIF money. And to make matters worse, some of the tactics that were used in order to acquire the money for phase 1 were really underhanded. Instead of giving the community an opportunity to have a permissive referendum when you purchase bonds, they did an end around, and they took out notes from the bank so the community didn't have a chance to weigh in on that decision.
I assume you have a response?
Wow. We go through a real thorough audit every year. I'm very comfortable with whatever the finance office was doing. It's a good auditor. I'm kind of surprised at the charges of some sort of financial shenanigans. Yeah, I believe the actual vote was 53% based on today's newspaper. But there, is that what was in, well, I saw 53 in the Courier Hub today. Okay, well, there will come a time when you're an elected official where you have to show some leadership. There will come a time where you have to make a decision based on what you think is in the best long-term interest of the city and the people you represent. They're called advisory referendums for a reason, and half the council thought it was a good idea to go forward, and the mayor broke the tie, and I think it's going to turn out to be a real good idea in the long run.
Okay, go ahead.
So, you know, to say you're comfortable with the audits is great. I was not comfortable with our past finance director. That was a person that withheld information from the city council and, more importantly, the community, and also flat out lied to the community in regards to whether or not the developer actually even filled out a TIF application, which was right in our policy at the time. And yeah, being on city council or being a mayor, you do have to make tough decisions, but you also need to listen to your constituents. And that's what's divided our community, and what we need to do now is earn that trust back. Doubling down on TIF money for Kettle Park West 2 isn't going to earn you the trust of the community, and I don't think you have the votes on the council to do it. So what we need to do is work with the developer and come up with a plan in order to get that project moving, a plan that not only the council, but the community will support.
Okay. So we're running out of time, and I've got one last question. I'm not going to allow a rebuttal on this because it won't be necessary. And we're starting with Tim, okay. What are your opponent's strongest qualities?
My opponent?
Your opponent's strongest qualities?
I've known Bob for a few years. We served together on the board of the Stoughton Area
Stoughton
Youth
Area
Center.
Youth Center.
And I think Bob's a nice guy. He works hard on that group. He was doing the financial statements for that group. I think that's certainly a strength of him, that he knows his numbers. He's been very active in the community, even after he retired from being on the city council years ago. He's been involved with many of the studies and documents that I reviewed during the campaign leading up to tonight. Bob's name is on quite a few of them, so he's been very active in the community.
Kind of left a trail on documents, yeah, over the years. Yeah, Tim and I disagree, but yeah, I think he's a nice guy. There's a couple times we worked together where we were agreeing, and it was good. He clearly has a passion for the community. I'd like to think I have one too, but he's here doing what he thinks is best. I may not agree with him on that, but I got to give him credit for he's following his convictions. What we would want out of all our elected officials, if they have a sense of what's the right thing to do, they should please go do it to the best of their abilities. So we may agree on how to get there for the future, or disagree on how to get there for the future of Stoughton. But you know, he cares. He's working on it.
All right. Thank you guys both. Had a good time there. And do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
That clock is not working. It can't be midnight.
No, it's
Still,
not. No.
It's been midnight for a
goodness.
couple of hours. Whew.
So on behalf of the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce and the Unified Newspaper Group, I want to thank Tim Swadley and Bob McGeever and all of the candidates who came for the city council candidates to give us this opportunity to learn more about them so we can be informed voters. Please everyone remember to vote April 3rd. Also, I want to put a little plug in for the Stoughton Chamber Community Guide. It's going to be out in the shopper. Every resident will get one in the shopper in the next week or two. And in there you will find things like the contact information for all of this current council, for all of the city staff positions, as well as a calendar of events for the entire year. So it's a very useful piece of document, so please look for it in your shopper. It's a stuffer. It also has a very nice map of Stoughton, which people will find very useful. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Please remind people that they can view tonight's session on WSTO in the coming weeks. You can stream it on demand, I believe, and probably not tonight, in a couple of days. So again, thank you everyone for coming for this very valuable evening. Thanks.